And welcome back to NostalgiaCast. I'm Darin Lundberg.
And I'm Johnny Craddock.
And today we're going to be taking a short little bonus episode. We're in the between seasons, I like to say. You made a cross-country move and you wanted to get a little kind of used to your new surroundings. And so that's fine. I kind of use that as an excuse to also take a break, focus on work. But again, we just wanted to do this as kind of a bonus. We're gearing up and we're going to start our new season here, but to kind of keep wet everybody's whistle, I guess you could say. I thought it would be a fun idea to come back on just for a short episode and talk about Jungle Cruise, talk about our nostalgia for Disneyland or the ride especially, and try to capitalize on more recent movies instead of Clash of the Titans from 1982 that no one has ever heard of.
Yeah, no, sounds good. Let's do it.
Okay, so Jungle Cruise. When we texted about this, I texted you and said, let me ask you a question. Have you seen Jungle Cruise? And obviously you have a family, so you have.
Yep, we've seen it.
So we both saw it
at a drive-in. So
okay, how are drive-ins? Are they? Do you guys fall asleep? Or are your kids okay with them?
No, they stay awake. They do pretty well. So,
okay,
yeah.
As long as they have treats. I don't think I've ever been to a drive-in. Like Elizabeth and I talk about this all the time, and I really don't think I've been to one.
There were several drive-ins where we both grew up. There was one in Orem, and there was a couple in Springville and Provo, I think, too.
Yep.
So I'm surprised you haven't been to one.
I know. Maybe I just don't like the idea of watching from my car and falling asleep or paying money to make out. I don't know. It's one of those things. So we both seen Jungle Cruise. And again, I thought that'd be kind of neat to tie it into our nostalgia for the ride. Obviously, we'll talk briefly about the movie. We don't want to go on for too long, kind of keep this a little bit shorter. But how familiar are you with the Jungle Cruise ride at Disneyland? How often have you been on that? Or is it a major attraction for you and your family?
I would say very familiar. We would go to Disneyland a lot during the summers on vacation. We'd go to the beach and we'd go to Disneyland. And I used to live in California when I was 2 or 3 years old. And so during that period, we would go all the time, every summer. So there are pictures of me going on the Matterhorn, as a little kid and doing those things. And so Jungle Cruise, it was one of my favorites. I used to love that ride.
Okay. And then watching the movie, I know that Pirates of the Caribbean, part of the fun of that movie was, obviously you see the three guys in the jail cell and, they're trying to offer the keys to the dog, that kind of thing. And so I'm not that, I guess I didn't remember the Jungle Cruise that much because it wasn't that spectacular of a ride. I remember the puns. And so that's funny that they have that in the movie. Yeah. But I don't remember a lot of the details of the ride. What are some of the details that you remember?
I do remember the backside of water joke. And I remember there's a joke about the rhinos getting his point across in the end. And he's like, about to poke this guy in the butt who's like climbing a tree. So that was one of the jokes that wasn't in the movie. But I did enjoy that part of the movie where they had the puns. And I thought that was kind of fun to recall back to the ride at the start and kind of get it out of the way. Get that stuff out of the way and then move on with the story. So that was kind of good.
Right. I think what are some of the little in jokes that they had, kind of like the keys? And again, forgive the train. There's always going to be a train coming by. But I think in the first part where what's Emily Blunt's character's name? I can't remember.
I can't either. I forget. It's Emily Blunt to me. So.
Okay. Yeah, Emily Blunt.
Pants. Her name was Pants. He called her Pants.
Pants all the time. Okay. So there's a part in the beginning where she's looking in an office kind of for the Arrowhead, I guess it is. Lily's her name. And she's in the office of Dr. Albert Falls, which is a joke from the ride. You know how they say, here's the Schweitzer Falls, which is named after its discoverer, Dr. Albert Falls. There's that little joke. Yeah. It has obviously when The Rock is doing his Jungle Cruise thing, there's the besides the puns, I know that he does we take this part of the ride for granted, we need to look for a bolder attraction, that kind of thing. Yeah. So there's those jokes from the ride. And then there's I think Paul Giamatti's character has the tiki bird, the bird that's missing from the tiki room. And so that's a little in joke to another part of the ride there. And then this is maybe a topic, Trader Sam from the ride. And they removed it from the ride because I guess racism, Disney's trying to rejigger their park. I know they did that with Pirates of the Caribbean, getting rid of that part where they're the marrying off the wenches, that kind of thing. So they switched that, so it's just chickens. So that obviously, and then what are they doing to Splash Mountain? They're changing that from Song of the South to Princess and the Frog. So Trader Sam, I did think that was a fun. They kind of gender flipped her, but then they also gave her a top hat, and she's talking to Lily. And she's explaining what the arrow is. So I thought that was kind of clever. But what was something you wanted to talk about the movie itself?
Well, I think the obvious thing is the fact that it's basically Pirates of the Caribbean meets Indiana Jones meets The Mummy.
Right.
I mean, that's apparent when you watch the movie.
Yeah.
And I think it's because, Pirates was very successful, made a lot of money for Disney. And so they thought, what else can we do? What do we have that we can, make another Pirates franchise? And so Jungle Cruise kind of fit that bill. So.
Yeah. Okay. And then what about actor wise? How do you think I tweeted because when you recently came out to visit family and we went to go, we had an issue trying to pick a movie. We ended up going to see A Quiet Place 2 with Emily Blunt. And then the next movie I went to the theater was this also with Emily Blunt. So I was like, that's weird. The last two movies I saw had Emily Blunt in them. Maybe I have a crush.
Well, I can say this real quick. After seeing the movie, I was sleeping and my kids were in the front room watching a YouTube video, and the guy they were watching had a voice that sounded like John Krasinski, Emily Blunt's husband, right?
Yep.
And I started having dreams that I was pitching screenplays to John Krasinski. He was like, no, not that one. We're not doing that. But it was pretty funny.
Oh, good. Okay. How do you think Emily Blunt did in the movie?
I think she was great. I think she actually carried the movie for me anyway. I thought she was kind of the star, and I think she did a great job. And she's probably the best actress as far as, all the actors in the cast. I think she did a great job with her role, and I thought she was very believable and very, very funny. I thought she did a great job.
Yeah, she's got a very good screen presence all the time. I've always liked her. She's a strong actress. She's a versatile actress. She can go from Mary Poppins to independent movies to A Quiet Place and, be a strong female lead. But she's also very entertaining. There's the part where Frank gets he's stabbed and he has the sword stabbed through him and she's talking about taking it out. She's like, have you seen the back? It's all... And we all laughed at that. So she's very charming. And I think The Rock, even though Dwayne Johnson played himself, I still think he's got a charisma. Obviously, the World Wrestling Federation guys, they're actors to begin with. But I've always felt and I know we talked about this before, but he's kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's kind of like, he's just got an on-screen charisma that's easy to watch. I don't think he's versatile. You know what I mean?
That's what I was going to say. I think he's fine. I mean, he did fine in the role. He wasn't great, but he wasn't bad either. Yeah,
he was just charming, and I think they had a good chemistry together. Thought Jesse Plemons was really funny.
Yeah, I like low budget Matt Damon. He's one of my favorites.
Right, and then I think Paul Giamatti is always good to have in your movie. What was there anything else that you had to add about
the only other thing about the actors is I wanted to mention that I thought at the very end the costume choice for The Rock was wrong. I know they were trying to show that he could, be a gentleman and stuff, but it would have been funnier for me if he just refused to wear that stuff, and maybe he just had his hat that he always wore throughout the movie done up a little more fashionable or something like that, and then that was his contribution to, now I'm respectable because I have my hat all fixed up. But he's not going to wear the stupid stuff because that stuff didn't fit the character. It was a wrong choice for that character. It didn't fit him, didn't fit the character.
Wasn't it like a pink suit or something like that?
It was like this velvet purple thing. It was weird.
That's funny. Okay. And then I guess the only other actor to talk about, Jack Whitehall, I thought he was fun. He did a good job as the brother, kind of the comic relief there. But
he was fine.
Yeah, it's like everybody did their job. It's one of those movies that's just it's fine. What else did you want to talk about specifically about the movie?
Well, the one thing that I wanted to point out was, well, first of all, let me mention this. For some reason, I really noticed the sound design in this movie. Maybe it was because we were in a car and we had it up really loud. And so everything was really, really prominent. Everything kind of jumped out at me. Not just the explosions or the action stuff, but everything, even the sound of water running down, or the sound of them grabbing a gun, or the sound of the torpedo in the water, just the little things that you wouldn't think needed a bunch of sound really stood out to me. And I thought, wow, that's really good. So all the sound design elements really stood out. And so I thought that was really well done.
Yeah.
And I also really liked how they incorporated Metallica's Unforgiven into the
Yeah.
score during that flashback sequence.
Okay.
I like when movies do that. I like when they pull from, modern songs and they kind of throw it into their scores. Like Moulin Rouge did that when they, threw those Madonna songs and Elton John and Nirvana. Those songs kind of showed up in the score, in the soundtrack in Moulin Rouge. And it kind of allows you to relate to the movie because you know those songs. And so when I heard Metallica's Unforgiven, I instantly perked up like, oh my gosh, that's Unforgiven. Do you know what I mean? So I started paying attention. So that was fun. I liked that.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I think with the sound design, it's oppressive. Maybe not in a bad way. It's noticeable. It's maybe oppressive isn't the right word. I would think it's more immersive. It really, being in a theater, especially. I don't know. Maybe it was different.
In your face. It's definitely in your face.
Yeah. I mean, it's loud. It's never boring. I don't think the movie was ever. I guess you could say too much sensation can be boring, but I think it was just the right kind of attention grabbing, especially for kids, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I understand what you're saying. Do you think there was a difference being in a car versus being in a theater? Because theater obviously had a good sound.
Yeah, maybe. And we just bought a new car too, so the sound. Okay. I mean, the speakers were nice and new and nice and loud. So
right. Okay.
But here's the thing I wanted to bring up too. This is the thing that bugged me about the movie.
Okay.
And not just this movie, but all movies that do this. And it seems like recently anyway, that movies will throw in these magical, fantasy elements that have no business being in the movie. Like it could be taken out of the movie and you can still have a successful story and the characters still have their arc, they still have their journey, they still go through the struggles and they accomplish the goal at the end.
Yeah.
And you can still have that story being told without the all of a sudden there's this curse, this magical fantasy element that is just kind of shut in your face, and you're supposed to believe that these guys turn into bee monsters and tree monsters.
Right. Well, we talked a little bit about Pirates of the Caribbean up front, and I think that the main thing that I noticed when watching this is it's Pirates of the Caribbean. It really wants to be Pirates of the Caribbean.
Right. Yeah.
And even though I think, and so when I say it wants to be Pirates of the Caribbean, there's obviously the curse stuff. There's obviously, it has the conquistadors that are all cursed, and there's the honey man, and there's, the Aguirre is basically made of snakes. That really reminded me of Dead Man's Chest with Davy Jones's crew. It really reminded me of Barbossa's crew, how they're kind of, skeletons and they're, falling apart, that kind of thing. So that was obvious. There's a thing with Frank's character deciding finally to help Lily out because he sees the arrowhead on her chest, which is what gets Captain Jack Sparrow to help out Elizabeth. He sees the gold that's hanging from it. And so they kind of embark on an adventure. I think what you're talking about with the magic realism, another movie that it was a lot like the African Queen with Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn, which is just a trip down, the Amazon or whatever. And that was very straightforward. It was very character driven. It didn't have any mystical, magical curses. It was just a straightforward adventure.
Right. Yeah.
And so I agree with you. There's nothing wrong with doing a straightforward adventure like that. I just think like with it trying to be like Pirates. And again, you talked about how they're looking for some kind of property. There was the Haunted Mansion, right? But it went the opposite route. It tried to be the ride instead of trying to give the thing that I like about Pirates and the thing I like about Jungle Cruise is that gave you an experience, a new story, other than just, we're just going to travel down, the Amazon for 2 hours, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that's what I like. So I know exactly why they went for the curses and all that. They wanted to do the pirates. I like that they went for that. I just don't know if it was successful, but then I would rather have it do this than go the Haunted Mansion route.
I see what you're saying. I can see that.
If that makes sense.
I just think it would have worked without it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what do you think would have been an improvement? Why do you think, do you have any ideas of how it would have been without all the curse stuff and and you said something earlier when we were chatting before recording about the, how everybody's cursed and everybody has a backstory. What do you mean by that?
I said that?
Yeah, you did. What do you think about that anyway?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm not quite sure how they would take it, what they would do, but I think you could find ways to tell the story without it. And I think I'm just tired of it. Like, honestly, I'm just tired of these movies always having to have some kind of magic power or something in it. Why do we have to have that? Can we please just go back to stories where there's a character that struggles and overcomes his struggle and wins in the end. That's all I want to see now. I don't want to see any more snakes on people's faces.
Well, I think it's kind of it's everything's on overload. Everything's like coming at you like just so fast, and it just wants to encompass everything and be this immersive experience that's in your face. And I agree with you. I don't want to come off as, because again, I thought the movie was fun. I had a good time. It made me forget about the crap that went on outside the theater for 2 hours. I thought that was great. Okay. And so that, to me, that made it a good experience because I did have a fun time. And then when I say it's like Pirates, the other thing too, how it has the curses, but there are literal sequences in this movie that you could cut out and it wouldn't affect the plot. I know there's the part where the Jesse Plemons character he shows up in the submarine, which how deep is that water? That there's a submarine and there's a long, like 5-10 minute chase. And it has nothing to do with anything. It's just all sensation for sensation's sake.
Yeah, they could cut that down a lot.
Before they even get on the cruise, it's like something like 40 minutes or something like that before and so that's another issue that I have with and maybe that's part of the charm of the Pirates movies is I always talk about the first three, at least the good Pirates movies. They come across as movies where nothing was left on the cutting room floor. Like they just put everything that they shot into the movie, whether it made sense or not, whether it tied into the plot or not. And you could have had a director and an editor come in and cut out all the unnecessary, jibber jabber or nonsense. Yeah. But that's part of the fun of Pirates is all that crazy.
Pirates had, Johnny Depp as Captain Jack, and he was just mesmerizing to watch as that character. And so I didn't mind watching those movies because he was so fun to watch on screen.
Yeah. I think the closest character to trying to steal is probably the Plemons character of trying to be, have an accent and be kind of an eccentric kind of thing. Yeah. Emily Blunt is good. She commands the screen. She's fun. She's charismatic. Yeah. The Rock is charismatic. He's fine. He's fun to watch, but you're right. There's no Jack Sparrow character. There's no Johnny Depp kind of making it a unique experience to stand out and make it a unique character with all the drab stuff that's going on. Again, I don't want to come across, because I do like Pirates, I do like Jungle Cruise, but it's just obviously there's these issues that it has.
I'm not saying I didn't like it. I enjoyed it. I still had fun. So it's not that I didn't enjoy myself.
So, and again, that's the thing that I've noticed too, is we can have critiques and criticisms of these movies, but it doesn't mean that we don't like them. It doesn't mean we didn't have a good time. Yeah. I just think it's hard not to pick up on these, trying to be like Pirates things. And so I think that's worthy of talking about. I also just don't think that it's a movie that you should get, your tidy whities in a bunch over. It's not that big of a deal. You know what I mean? It's a harmless, why are you so offended by this thing existing? A lot of people have that. I'm not saying you're not having offended, but a lot of people
are offended by it. They are. I didn't know that.
There's a lot of people that, especially on Twitter, but that's true of everything. Twitter's just pushing back because that's what they do. But it's every time I see something like that, I'm like, you know what? Calm down. It's a movie about like they're cursed and there's a guy made of honey that like he eats himself. That kind of. It's like what do you want? Like, and that's what I mean. Like if it's like a Pirates movie, and I enjoyed that aspect because I'm like, yeah, this is kind of more what I want. If you're going to do a Disney ride adaptation, I want it more Pirates than I want it Haunted Mansion.
I agree. I agree with that.
So anything else you wanted to add on Jungle Cruise?
Nope, I think that's good.
Okay, sounds good. Both entertaining movie, not the greatest thing ever, not the worst thing ever. So, fun time at the movies. So so that was just a little short kind of mini episode. We want to try to make it more like short, obviously, than 45 minutes, like our Cobra Kai episode and our big episode, which we had a lot of stuff to talk about, but it's like, why would we call it a short episode when it's almost as long?
Well, it was still shorter though.
It's still shorter. So I guess we could call that. So, but this is just an interim before we pick up on just kind of an experiment to see what fun we could have before we pick up. And so again, I think we're still on track to do Explorers for first episode of the season, right?
Yep.
Okay. So again, we're still in the process of setting everything up, but sooner rather than later. And then we'll be able to, get going on that. Was there anything you wanted to add before we sign off?
No.
Okay. All right. We're good then. Okay. So again, this is a short mini episode, and hopefully we want to have a few more of these to kind of talk about something more. I guess Cobra Kai was a little more recent.
A little more current. Yeah. A little more current.
Yeah. I want to try to, so we're not doing these obscure 80s movies that nobody born after 1995
I
has
mean,
heard
I'm
of.
still gonna want to talk about a few of those. So just so you
Yeah,
know, I
that's
have
the
some in my pocket that I want to pull out.
that's the point of our show, right? We can't stray too far from that. So again,
Yes.
okay. So again, we'll gear up and we'll be back to talk about Joe Dante's Explorers, I believe 1985. It's been a while since I've done my research on that. But until then, I'm Darin Lundberg.
And I'm Johnny Craddock.
And we'll catch you next time, guys.